Hello students and welcome to today's IELTS live class. My name is Adrian and I am broadcasting to you from beautiful Central Europe, capital city of Hungary, Budapest. Today we are looking at an example of an IELTS Task 1 line graph, and I will show you a high band example answer and how to approach these types of questions. This is a members chat class. Members get these classes 3 times a week. Everybody chat class will start in 90 minutes, so that will be reading. Hi Ava, good to see you in class. As usual, our materials come from our websites for academic IELTS. Check us out at aehelp.com. And if you are learning for the general version of the exam, check us out at gieltshelp.com. On those websites, we have lots and lots of videos for all sections of the exam, as well as 6 original practice tests and a fully interactive course for your phone, tablet, and PC. Hi Begzad, hi Preeti, hi Harminder. Good to see many of our members joining in on time. Fantastic. Again, if you're looking for the hard copy version of our books, you can find that on Amazon. Search for AE Helps Academic IELTS or G Helps General IELTS. If you have questions, send me an email, Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com. And now let's just get right into it. Let's look at our question for today. Members, I did post the question in our community board for members as well. Hi Rahul, good to see you in class on time. Fantastic. All right, so students, here is today's task 1. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task. Again, make sure to practice your timing. Timing is important for the exam, students. The chart below shows the number of fatal motor vehicle accidents in a country for a specific time period according to vehicle types. Report the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. So that's what we're looking at today. And here is our line graph. Make that a little bit smaller. It's okay if you don't see all the text yet, students. It says, can you see that clearly, members? I mean, the graph, if you don't see the words for now, that's okay. I will zoom in on those, but can you see the graph okay? Let me know if you can't. I'll try to change the brightness. It says fatal crashes by vehicle type in the United States. And then here we have several lines. On the IELTS exam, you won't have colors. Here we have colors just for the lesson. It makes a little bit more sense. Good, thank you Begzad and Harminder for confirming that. Here we have the blue line is passenger vehicles, orange line is light trucks, and then we have these lines below here for large trucks, motorcycles, buses, and other. All right, in the IELTS exam, members, you're probably going to see different kinds of lines. So you'll see lines that are like this, or you'll see a line that's like this, or you'll see a line that's like that. And then you'll see this kind of line here. Do you know, okay, let's start with this most basic one. What is this called? It's good to know the vocabulary for this. So when the line is simply just like that kind of shape, or appearance, what do you call that in English, that type of line? And of course, as you can guess, I'll ask you what you call this, this, and this as well. So it's good to know the names of those lines, because if you refer to the line in your essay, it's good to be able to say what kind of line you're looking at. Again, there's no color in the official IELTS, so they use different types of lines. What is this line called? Anybody know? It's some kind of a line. It does have a name in statistics, this type of line. It's not a straight line. Okay, the shape of it is a straight line, but the actual form, the appearance of it. You're thinking of that one? No, no. So what I'm thinking here, to give you a little bit better idea, is this is called a solid line. Okay. Solid line. What is this one called when it's like that, the line? Anybody know this one? Yeah, Begzod, solid line. There you go. Yeah. So you can refer to it as the solid line. Okay. Begzod, not this one. You're thinking of this one. Okay. This one here is called a dashed line. This one is called a dotted line. That's right, Rahul. Very good. Good for you. Excellent. So that's a dotted line. This is just some vocabulary to get you going. And yes, Rahul, it is a good idea to use the dash between the dotted line, and you can use the dash for the dashed line as well, or even the solid line to create a single word. Okay. It's not called segregated, Roshni. Okay, this one here, it's fairly straightforward. Don't overthink it. The top one, anybody know what that one's called? As some of you are probably typing right now, it's the double. I mean, if you want to get very technical, it's the double solid line. If you have a lot of lines, which you won't see in IELTS, but it's called the double line. Okay. So again, remember, in the official exam, you're going to see lines like this, and it's good to remember and use this vocabulary when you indicate that the dashed line refers to motorcycle accidents. Okay, so keep that vocabulary in mind for your studies. And of course, if you go into statistics or some type of major that uses math, or in business school, for example, it's good to know these words. Okay, you don't want to look silly in a presentation because you don't know the name of the line that you're referring to. So just remember those, okay? Write them down. All right. So let's get to it. Let's go back to the question and start off with our overview. As many of you members now know, the overview, which is the same as the introduction. The overview is just the specific name for the introductory paragraph of the task 1 in the IELTS. So we'll start with the overview. The overview is 2 to 3 sentences, maximum 4, okay? So 2 to 3 sentences. And what should it have? So I know a lot of you know this, but I really need you to tell me the exact content of the overview. What do I include in the overview for the academic IELTS task 1? Okay, it's 2 parts. Remember both parts. What should I do? I need to... Begzod says, paraphrase with details. Harminder agrees with Begzod. Great. Yeah, the question. That's right, Begzod. Fantastic. Roshni, good. I'm really happy to see now that the members are remembering this important point to add details to the paraphrasing, okay? So that's one part, right? So the overview is paraphrase the question with details. And what else does the overview have? It has one more element. What's the second element? So the first element is the paraphrase with the details. And what's the second element of the overview? To make sure that you have a really good high-level, clear overview of the graph chart, diagram, flow chart, so forth. So that's one half. You have one half of the overview. Now what's the other half? Yeah, Begzod says the overall info. Yeah, that's an okay way to say it, Begzod. Another way to say it is the most obvious feature of the graph. Yeah, so those two will make up your overview. Fantastic. Okay. So here, yeah, the most clear data. That's right, Rahul, what you can see at first glance. You should be able to see it without reading the words. So the most obvious data is visible just by the graphic alone in most cases. You don't need to look too deeply at any of the words or specific data. Okay, so let's do the overview together. Here's the question again. The chart below shows the number of fatal motor vehicle accidents in a country for a specific time period according to vehicle types. And I'll show you the question or the graph again. Just for interest's sake, keep in mind that chart is more British English. Graph is more American English. Sometimes students wonder why graph and chart. Chart is more British, graph is more American, but we use them interchangeably. So we'll use them together in both regions of the world. So you don't have to stress too much about what should I say there. Okay, here is the line graph again. So I'll help you out here. Hopefully you can kind of see that. It's tough to get these graphs on the screen perfectly. So it's fatal crashes by vehicle type in the United States. Here we have passenger, that's this top line. And then we have light trucks, that's this orange line. And then below we have large trucks, motorcycles, unknown, and then the last one, the red one, is buses. At the very bottom here, can you see those numbers, members? It starts with 1994, then it's 96, 98, 2000, 2002, 2004, 2006. So from 94 to 2006 with intervals of 2 years. Okay, so it's 2-year intervals. And then on this y-axis here, you have the number of fatalities, fatality meaning the number of deaths, from 0, first line is 10,000, 20,000, so we're going by intervals of 10,000, and then you have 31,000. So that should be enough for you to paraphrase the question and give a bit more details. The types of vehicles, there's six types of vehicles. Okay, country is United States, 1994 to 2006. Okay, so here's the question again. Go ahead, write the first sentence of the overview. I'm going to do the same, and then we will compare our start to the essay. Okay, so I'll give you a moment of silence so you can think. Okay, bring back that graph again, just so you can see it for a second. And again, pace yourself, take your time, don't rush, okay? It's really important that your overview is free from mistakes. If you have trouble writing complex sentences, just keep them simple, okay? You can get a high band score writing fairly simple sentences as long as they're grammatically accurate and they report the information clearly. Harminder's already on top of it. Harminder says, the line chart reveals the information of fatal crashes by different types of vehicles in the United States from the period. Harminder, it's the period because it's a specific time period, so you need the article the. The period of 1994 to 2006. Harminder, that's fantastic. That's a high-level response, okay? That will definitely get you a great band score for sure. You're off to a good start there. Preeti says the line graph represents the trend of death by motor vehicle accidents in America for a particular duration from 1994 to 2006. according to 6 different types of vehicles. Preeti, you have such a beautiful start. Please don't make that singular plural mistake at the very end. It's vehicles. Add that S in there. Okay. Rahul, very good. The line graph depicts the number of casualties, Rahul. Casualties is the plural there. Really nice paraphrasing on the word fatalities, students. So fatal crashes, death by motor vehicle accidents, casualties. Those are all great paraphrasings of that, okay? Rahul continues with, through different kinds of vehicles in the United States in the time period from 94 to 2006. The y-axis shows the number of fatal accidents from 0 to 31,000 in intervals of 10,000, as where the y-axis shows the years from 94 to 2004 in intervals of 2 years. Yeah, Rahul, that's great. Some really nice detail there. Hi, Aigul. Good to see you in class. Look forward to chatting with you tomorrow. The given lines illustrate the quantity of lethal deaths which happened by 6 kinds of transportation types in the US or USA. Aigul, very close. Okay, you have just a couple of slight mistakes. The most important one is pay attention to your adjective clause, which happened with 6 kinds of transportation vehicles in the US. Okay, Begzod says these solid lines depict the quantity of fatal crashes with 6 various vehicle types in the US. When looking at the y-axis, there's a scale from 0 to 31,000 accidents, while the x-axis demonstrates the periods starting from 94 to 2006 with intervals of 2 years. Really nice description there, Begzod, of the x and y axes. Absolutely, and it is good to state that on the IELTS exam or in a school presentation, just because, yes, it's obvious, but you want to bring your audience's attention to the scales that you're looking at. Sometimes teachers say, oh, that's not important to talk about the XY axis. I disagree. I think, yes, it is obvious, but it's important to state. That makes the presentation, or in this case, the essay, much clearer. Okay? Good job so far. Here's my start. The line graph indicates car-related fatalities in America over a 12-year period from 1994 to 2006, according to 6 vehicle types: passenger, small and large trucks. So that's another way to do it, is you can actually list the type of vehicles. I know that's a little bit tougher for you to see. Motorcycles, buses, and other. The x-axis indicates the years with 2-year intervals, as where the x-axis shows or reveals the fatalities from 0 to 31,000 with intervals of 10,000. Sure, it's great. Okay, doing fantastic. All right, so let's throw in the most obvious feature, okay? And that's quite clear here. I think all of you should be able to get the same idea. So what is the most obvious piece of information that we can catch right away by looking at these lines? So what do we see immediately? Without having to really look at numbers and details, we don't even need to look at the trend. So we don't have to look at increase or decrease. We just need to look at the very obvious piece of information here that jumps out at us from first glance. So what can we see? What is super duper obvious here in this case? And I have a feeling that all of you will say more or less the same piece of information. Okay? And of course, it is important to think of how you're going to say that. So even though it's very clear, think about the best way to express that. Okay, you're probably thinking and typing, which is good. Okay, Roshni, remember, these are vehicle types. So the blue line, it says passenger. That means passenger vehicle. So there you're thinking of sedan, station wagon, the most common types of small cars, okay? So the blue line is passenger car. It's a small car. Okay, the orange line is light trucks, also known as pickup trucks. So just to kind of make that clear, so sedan, okay? In many countries, they're called 5-door or 4-door vehicles, okay? In English, we refer to them as sedan. It might be 2 Ds, I'm not sure. You have to check the spelling. So sedan, okay, or small car is another way to think about it. They include hatchback, sedan, station wagon, so on. Light trucks, also known as pickup trucks. Okay, those are the light trucks, the passenger trucks. All right. Begzod says no difference in the 4 types at the bottom here, but clear changes in the 2 lines. There is some change here, especially for motorcycles, Begzod. You can see that that line does increase through the years. You don't need to think about the change here so much. There's a piece of information that's more obvious than the change. Look at it more generally. Okay. Preeti, even that's too much detail. So saying 1994 fatality is high by passenger car, you're looking at it too specifically. Igul says it's obvious from the chart that light trucks was the main cause of people's death. Okay, Igul, you're close to, I think, the right piece of information, but it's not just light trucks. It's also small cars. So what's most obvious, look at this gap. So this is really what you should be noticing is this huge gap between these 2 lines and these 4 lines. Okay, so these 2 lines and these 4 lines, they're separated by, I don't know, 10,000, 15,000 deaths, even at the start of the line graph. So that's what you need to focus on and identify, okay? That you have 2 vehicle types that result in a lot more types of a lot more fatalities than the other 4, okay? That's really what you should be picking up. So, and you don't have to say the numbers. You don't have to say the years. Here's where you need to use human language. Remember, students, your first thought when you're looking at these graphs and charts for task 1 is changing what you see and the numbers into human language. Okay, that's really important. That's how you get the high band scores. So I'm going to emphasize that tip for you, and I really want you to remember that for the future. Okay, this is an important, very important tip for high band scores. Your goal with graphs and charts is to take the image and data and translate or interpret it into, let's call it human language. Some of you are computer majors, you'll kind of know what I mean. We say machine language or computer language for other kinds. So into human language, okay? So here we're looking at this huge difference between these 2 and these 4. And we're changing that into an easily understandable human type of language, okay? So I'll write the sentence here. You do the same, okay? So add that sentence in. Here we go. So at first glance, it really is at first glance, Okay, so this is how I express that difference. At first glance, let me just erase this so you can clearly see it. At first glance, it is evident that passenger and light trucks accounted for the majority of mortal crashes in any given year. Okay? Roshni, yes, you're very close. Okay? So at first glance, it is clear that passenger and light trucks are much more responsible for the mortality rate than the other four vehicle types. Roshni, it's really important that you include that comparison, right? Than the other four types. And I need to do the same. So you see here, at first glance, it is evident that passenger and light trucks accounted for the majority of mortal crashes in any given year. And we need to extend it with the comparison. So compared to the other four vehicle or transportation types. So we're not repeating the word vehicle over and over again. Yeah, absolutely. Rahul says, at first glance, it is clear that fatal accidents frequently occur due to passenger vehicles and light trucks. Rahul, very good. Okay, very, very clear. All right. Excellent. Okay, and then we're going to move on to our analysis, the body paragraph, right? Or analyses for plural. Okay, and that should always be from most to least important. Just because if you run out of time in the 20 minutes, you need to get your most important facts and comparisons and features onto the paper. Okay, so, but before we do that, as you all know, we want to identify our points for description and for comparison. Okay, I see we have some more of the endings coming up for the overview. Begzad says, at first glance, it becomes evident that there were more accidents in both passenger and light trucks than the other types of transportation. Yeah, that's good, Begzad. We do have to be careful, though, because we're not just talking about accidents. There are a lot of accidents that are not fatal, non-fatal accidents, minor car accidents. These are fatal car crashes, so it's possible that other types of accidents are more frequent for different vehicle types. But here we specifically need to keep remembering that we're talking about fatal crashes. Okay, so don't lose parts of the controlling idea while you're describing and writing. Be careful about that. Okay, in the IELTS, it's not too serious in this case, but in university, your prof would remind you that you're talking about specific kinds of accidents here, or specific type of accident. Okay, let's look at the data a little bit more closely. And let's go into identifying our points of comparison here. So what should we start with? What should be our point number one? Makes sense to go type by type throughout the time period. Okay, so while you're thinking about that, I'll give some feedback to Preeti. Preeti says, at first glance, it is quite evident that small car and light trucks are more responsible for mortality than others. Yeah, that's great, Preeti. Of mortality, yeah, I think that works, Preeti. Of mortality. For definitely works. Of maybe kind of works. Okay. Yeah, Roshni, absolutely. We'll start with the highest, which is small vehicle types in 1994, all the way at 30,000. So we want to describe this line first, and then all the way, of course, to here. And then number two is light trucks. So we want to describe this trend here for light trucks. Very, very importantly, when we're doing that, this is the most important part of our essay, because clearly these are much, much less significant for this data. Okay? So the important point that we want to make sure to include here is the comparison between these two trends as well. Okay? So that has to be somewhere in the beginning of our analysis. Welcome to our new member. Thank you for joining. Make sure to send me an email so I can send you the other perks. And I can't read the Chinese characters, so please, if you can spell out your name for me with English letters, I'd super appreciate that because I'd love to refer to you by your name. Thank you for joining, and be sure to send me an email, okay? The email, or you can even contact me through YouTube, but email is at the beginning of this lesson, so. All right, so again, 1, 2, comparison between these two is 3. What would be Cai Sheng Hung? Cai Sheng Hung. Okay, Cai Sheng Hung. Awesome, cool. Thanks for becoming a member. Enjoy these classes. Tomorrow and on Saturday, there's 2 more members chat classes, so make sure to join up for those, okay? All right, what would be my number 4? So what would be, so often when you're looking at these graphs, the first, second, maybe even the third point, it's very, very obvious. They're so pronounced. And then what would be my 4th most interesting point here? If I zoom in. Bag's Odds has this slight increase, and we can probably guess what that is. Here I'll, by the vehicle types. So there you see the vehicle types. And which one of these vehicle types in the bottom 4 lines, which one has it? This one, right? So that one, there's an increase, and because of that, it's more interesting for us than these other 3 lines that just seem to be kind of stable. And it's no surprise that that's motorcycles. Okay, so that one's motorcycles. So motorcycles are on an increase. That would be number 4. Okay. And then large trucks is number 5. And then buses and other vehicle types is number 6. Now, you will probably not need to write about all of this unless you're very, very strong in English. You've practiced this lots, then maybe you have time and you have the speed to mention all of these points. But if you get even to number 4, you run out of time. Never, ever, ever take time from task 2. Task 2 is worth more than task 1. It's worth double. So never steal time from your task 2 essay to try to finish your task 1. If you only get to point number 4, which is the motorcycles, and then just really quickly write a very short sentence with the other 3 types appear to be stable through the time period, then just finish it off, okay? And if you run out of time, don't even worry about the summary. All right, so, okay, good, fantastic. Let's start putting these sentences together, starting with 1 and 2. I have to erase this, otherwise you won't clearly see what's going on when I'm writing, but it is obvious, and hopefully you have it in mind. So number 1, we need to describe, try to darken this up a bit. The room got a bit brighter. Here we go. So you need to describe this first line here. In 1994, it's around 30,000. And then you want to describe this trend. Okay? So pay attention to how you can describe this trend. What kind of a decrease is this until 2006? How can I say that type of decrease? Is it a rapid? Is it a gentle? What would you call that? How would you qualify it? It's not considerable, Begzod. I wouldn't call this considerable. I mean, we have 30,000 in 94, and we still have 24,000-ish in 2006. So 30,000 to 24,000, it's not considerable. Considerable would be going from 30,000 down to 10,000. Okay, that would be, or even just a half to 15,000 could be considerable, but 6, steady, Roshni, Kunte, very good. I would call that a steady. It's a steady decrease, okay? Roughly about 2,000 less each year, 1,500 to 2,000 less fatalities each year. Okay, let's write that. So let's write that first sentence. Okay, I'm going to do that, and you do the same, and then we can compare what we have with each other. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as the expression goes in English, so my sentence isn't the only way. So notably is good to use for this because it's obviously the most significant. So notably, small cars. Okay, so there's my sentence. Notably, small cars had the highest mortality rates in all years, starting at 30,000 deaths in 1994. This number gradually or steadily, so gradually and steadily are the two words that'll work. The word form there, I'm just going to add this. You should not do this on your IELTS. I'm just doing this for your learning. Okay, steadily is the synonym for gradually. So this number steadily or gradually decreased by about 1,500 deaths biannually. Here's an interesting vocabulary for you. And yes, absolutely, this is higher level or it's more fancy vocabulary. Bi meaning two, like bicycle, meaning two wheels, right? So biannually, meaning 2 years. So about 1,500 deaths biannually and reached about 24,000 in 2006. Okay. All right. Now comes my second point and my third point, which is the comparison and explanation for light trucks. But I'm going to give you a moment to catch up to me here a little bit before I go there. Okay, so I'll repeat that piece of advice in a moment. Roshni says, overall, in 1994, the highest fatality rate was by passenger transportation. Roshni, since you're actually explaining and not referring to the graph specifically, you need to use past tense. Okay, so you have to use the past tense there, Roshni. If you say the line graph shows, that's present tense because you're generally referring to the data. If you're referring specifically to the information, then you have to use past tense. That's a really important question that a lot of students ask me is, when do I use past tense? When do I use present tense in these line graphs or pie charts? So here's the answer, okay? One more time. When you refer to the graph specifically, it's general information because it's shown by the graph generally. So the graph shows that. Okay, if you're referring to the information itself, you use the past tense. So car accidents were the highest, okay? So Roshni says, overall in 1994, the highest fatality rate by passenger was by passenger transportation at 31,000. Further from 1996 to 2006, it steadily decreased. Okay, not is steadily, but it steadily decreased. Begzad says the number of fatal accidents in passenger vehicle type was at 30,000 in the initial year. This figure steadily decreased over the period and ended up at roughly 24,000. Yeah, ended up at. And I love how you're picking up that I'm using the letter K for 1,000 instead of zeros. I find that just much faster. It looks clear. So I prefer to use the word K instead of writing the word thousand or the zeros. Just starts to look really awkward by the end of the essay to have all those zeros throughout the writing. All right, IGOL says in 1994, the highest number of catastrophic accidents was shown at 30,000. Then in each 2 years, it steadily decreased to reach 24,000. Sure, IGOL, that's good. Just remember to include the type of vehicle that you're explaining. You have to say that. Okay, you have to tell your audience that you're talking about small vehicles or passenger vehicles. Okay. Harminder, it is crystal clear that passenger vehicle was the most responsible for fatalities, around 30,000 crashes in 1994. Accidents by small cars reached 24,000 deaths in 2006. Yeah, be really careful, Harminder, to not have the word crashes within 6 words. So you have crashes in 1994, crashes by. Try to avoid that kind of repetition, especially so close to one another. Okay. Preeti, in the year 1994, the fatality rate was highest at 30,000. Then it steadily decreased with 1,500 to 2,000 deaths biannually and reached about 24,000 in 2006. Preeti, that's very good. Again, same advice as to IGOL. Make sure to remind your audience that you're talking about small vehicles. Okay? All right, students. So point 2 and 3, we're looking at light trucks, the trend in light trucks, and again, for those higher band scores, so band 7 or more, you want to be able to combine describing this trend while comparing it to passenger types. So you have the light trucks, you have the passengers, you have this trend, you have this trend. Make that comparison all in one sentence, okay? I'm going to start off. Please do the same, and then we'll, again, compare at the end, okay? So all right. So there's my sentence, waiting for yours. Don't let me influence you too much. Again, there's lots of different ways to express this. So inversely to small vehicles, light trucks, which were the second most responsible for fatalities, steadily increased from 1994 to 2006. So if I use the word gradually there, then I will definitely use the word steadily there. Okay, again, just so I'm paraphrasing. I said this before, I can't remember if it was yesterday's class or another video that we've done recently, but to get a high band score for vocabulary and lexical resource, you don't have to use very fancy words or unique words. You just have to use different words, okay? You have to use a variety of words. That's what's most important. Sure, if you have some really good specific vocabulary, use it, but it's more important to pay attention to variety. Okay, use a range of words. All right. So again, my sentence, inversely to small vehicles, light trucks, which were the second most responsible for fatalities, steadily increased from 1994 to 2006, starting at around 18,000 deaths and ending at roughly 23,000 casualties. Okay. All right. While you're thinking of your answers, I'm going to throw another question at you. What am I doing in this sentence with the comma, using which, and using the comma here? So what kind of language tool am I using with these commas and using the word which? Can anybody tell me that? A little bit of a bonus question. It's a very good skill to practice and use during your task 1, task 2 writing. So again, notice inversely to small vehicles, light trucks, which were the second most responsible for fatalities. Steadily. Begzod, very good. Yeah, it's a descriptive or an additive clause. Okay, so using the comma, using the which, it's a descriptive additive clause. And it allows me to get an extra piece of key information into this long, complex sentence without having to write a second sentence. So the sentence can read without it. So I could say inversely to small vehicles, inversely to small vehicles, light trucks steadily increased from 1994 to 2006, starting at around 18,000 deaths and ending roughly at 23,000 casualties. So even if I take out this phrase, which were the second most responsible for fatalities, the sentence still reads very well. With this included, I'm adding in a key piece of information so it reads even better. Okay, so it's called an additive descriptive clause. All right. Aigul, simultaneously, light trucks had taken much life from passengers at around 18,000 in 1994 and gradually rose until the death toll was around 23,000. Great. Aigul, the word that you're looking for there is death toll. Death toll is an expression that means the total number of deaths. Okay, so I'll teach you that vocabulary. Aigul, careful not to overcomplicate your sentences. Simultaneously, comma, light trucks had taken much life from passengers around 18,000. You don't need the which was. You don't need to. So it takes practice, I know. But it's worth it. You don't always have to use those lengthy adjective clauses. Sometimes a simple comma or even omitting will be a clear sentence. Practice will make that perfect. Begzod says, however, according to light trucks, it's not according to light trucks, Begzod. It's according to the yellow line or the orange line in this case. So however, according to the orange line, or in the IELTS it might be a dotted line, right? According to the dotted line, light trucks possess the second place for fatal crashes, showing a gradual upward trend from a certain number of thousand. In 2006, the number was approximately a certain number of thousand. Sure, because you can't see that. There it is. So Begzod, a little bit awkward. I would rephrase that. I don't think that's one of your best sentences, but it's a good try. You tried something a little bit unique, and hey, that's how you come up with brilliant ideas, right? We have to fail to succeed and to come up with new innovative ways of expressing ourselves. So when you're preparing for the IELTS, members, I encourage you to try different ways of explaining and expressing. However, when you're in the official test, when you're doing the IELTS, do not experiment. Use what you know is accurate and works well. Okay, so experiment at home. Do not experiment in the official test. All right. The word toll, I'm just going to write that up here real quick. So death toll is the total number of deaths. The word toll is used to refer to the total number. Okay, it's one of its definitions. Check that word out when you have some time in the dictionary. Okay. All right, so fantastic. I'm moving along nicely. I've described the two most important points. So I know as long as I've done a good job so far, I'm going to get at least a band 5 now, even if I stop here. As long as I don't have grammar mistakes, even though I don't have 150 words, I might still get a band 5 for that. Okay? Just because I'm doing what I'm supposed to and I'm doing it accurately. I don't have task completion yet, and I can state definitely a few more details, but I'm absolutely on the right track, okay? So far, members, one common missing point for this description is the actual comparison between small cars and light trucks. Notice that I use the word inversely, okay? Remember that word inversely. Inversely, conversely, both of those will work okay. Inversely is a little bit more accurate because we can see that this is the inverse of this. Inverse basically means the opposite to, okay? It's the mirroring of it. So if I put a line here, this is a mirror of this. So it's an inverse type of trend, okay? The word inverse works better than however in this case, okay? It's more accurate. It's a more accurate term. So remember the word inversely, okay? All right, next, let's talk about motorcycles. So here's motorcycles. Okay, motorcycles are roughly about 2,500 in 1994. Okay, it's 2,500. And by 2006, motorcycles are about 5,000. Okay, so describe this line for motorcycles. Okay, write a sentence about motorcycles. Motorcycles. Okay, that's what we're looking for right now, is motorcycles. I'm going to do the same and I'll wait for your responses. Okay, so motorcycles, 1994, 2,500. By 2006, it's 5,000. All right. So there is my sentence describing this other interesting trend. Then I'm just going to throw in my last sentence. We already talked about that one. While you write down the motorcycle one, I'll give you a little bit more time. All right. Thinking, speaking, working through it with you in real time, just the same as you. All right. So here's my sentence here. Although the other 4 vehicle types accounted for less than a quarter of the number of fatalities as small cars and trucks, it is significant to mention that motorcycle-related deaths increased over time and doubled from 2,500 to 5,000 mortalities from the start to finish of the noted years. The other 3 vehicle types showed a constant trend in the time period, with large trucks being the 3rd most common source of vehicle fatalities. So that finishes off my essay. Okay. Now, I can write a summary here. I'm running a little bit short on time, so I'm just going to throw it at you. And then... So the summary, if you don't have a summary at this point, if you've written all of this and you don't have a summary, you're well on your way to a band 8.59. But if you want to make sure that you have a band 9 because you are doing your PhD in linguistics, for example, and you want to really prove that you have an expert level of English, you can throw in a summary. And you can do this. I will read... your comments, Rahul. I did notice those coming up, so just give me a moment. I'm going to finish this thought. So in summary, it is interesting to point out that 3 of the 6 vehicle types show changes in mortality rates throughout or mortality rates over time, as where the other 3 don't or do not. You shouldn't use contractions. So that's the summary that I've noticed here, is that you have 3 vehicle types, 1, 2 in the motorcycle, that show some kind of a change, and then you have 1, 2, 3 that really show no change. And if you are the head of the motor vehicle department or traffic regulation and control, you definitely pay attention to the ones that are showing changes, especially ones that are showing increasing changes, such as light trucks and motorcycles. Okay, those would be very significant. All right, so let's see. Begzod says, it is also interesting to note that motorcycles experienced growth. In 1994, they had caused around 2,500 fatalities, and in the final year, it doubled in numbers. Yeah, sure. Begzod, that's good. Note the corrections there. Aigul says the death toll was around 2,500 for motorcycles in 1994. And the figure idly grew by the end, by the end of 2006, the quantity had doubled. Okay, good. Rahul says it is noteworthy that fatal casualties by motorcycle had doubled around 2,500 numbers. However, this number increases steadily in the timeline, and it reached up to 2,500 by 2006. Preeti says, nonetheless, deaths by motorcycle increased in the 12-year period. It doubled from 2,500 to 5,000. Preeti, that's good. Again, some corrections there. Okay, students, that's fantastic. Good job, members. You're definitely improving. Good news, members. Those of you who are often in class and commenting and doing the work, you're definitely improving. I can see not only that you're using better English, more complex grammar, but I can also see that you're starting to get your ideas out faster. So you're not just improving the quality of your English, but you're improving the speed of your English and your thinking, which is fantastic. Okay? All right. So I have the complete essay here. I will post it on our community board for everybody to review. Okay? The video will be up on the channel for a while, so you can look at the graph again and see what's happening. Again, if you have questions, viewers, you can send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. And do be sure to join our world-class premium online IELTS courses. This is our academic course here with the blue background. It's at aehelp.com. click that red button to join there. And for the general IELTS exam, click this red button here with the green background at gieltshelp.com to get all of our materials. Members, fantastic job today. Keep it up. I love how so many of you are applying the new vocabulary as soon as you learn it. Aigul, you did a good job of that with death toll to finish the essay, so that was fantastic. In 30 minutes, we will have a reading passage example with some strategies and explanations coming up. Same channel. Make sure to stay tuned in. Have a great break, and hopefully I will see many or most of you in 30 minutes time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.